Hello and welcome to this tutorial. This is Kevin, also known as AKAAWOL, and today we are going to make a bookmark for this book that I just received. I did a trade with Adrian Oh, the author of this book, for a couple of my masks, and I was willing to do it because I really wanted to read this book. Adrian Oh is like a local legend. He went from like Canada to the southmost point of South America on a skateboard. Excuse me. He went on a longboard. He would probably correct me immediately for saying that. Longboard is basically a skateboard, just bigger. Absolutely amazing story. Can't wait to read this. So I decided I really need a bookmark for it, and since green is his color, I figured that's what we're going to use. So I've got these 6 strands here, and let me set this up, and we are going to make a bookmark. So you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, what's the big difference between a bracelet and a bookmark? And the only real difference I can think of is you want a bookmark to be thin because you don't want it breaking the spine of the book. That's like the important part, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make one of my knotless beginnings so that way it stays nice and thin and doesn't mess up this book. And I'll show you how we do that here as soon as I get this string ready. So what we're doing is getting all these unwound, which I'm sure is making a heck of a lot of noise. That's great, just what we need. And last one, okay. And then we gotta find the center, or approximately the center. Now mind you, these are super long strings. I don't need it nearly this long, but I wasn't going to cut a bunch of other string to do it. I didn't, already had the colors I liked, so just do this. Woo! And of course that wasn't going to stay up there. Okay, so I'm going to use this piece of scrap red to hold this together and do that, just like that. All right, so this is how the thing is starting. Now, in my mind, I've got this kind of worked out. I want like a cool bright green stripe. So what we're going to do, I've just pinned off this side, so as I pull over here, I don't get it to come all wonky or something. And I'm just going to do a single loop. So this is like a backwards 4. I'm just going to do a single loop and line up these strings in the sequence I want. So I'm going to go with my 2 fluorescents. And then I'm going to go from dark to light. So this would be the dark. Now I saw somebody try to do this, and they were going and coming around twice or something. I don't know what they were thinking. You spread these too far apart, it's going to make the start come off all funny. So I thought that was a little bit weird, but whatever. I mean, if that's what worked with your string, then so be it. This is how I do it. I'm going to anchor this one over here, so again, it doesn't kind of go all over the place. It shouldn't too much because you already have like this kind of anchored, but a little bit of caution goes a long way. And we're going to match the same sequence because you probably know I like symmetry. So, alright, so it's the 2 fluorescents. These ones will glow if you have a basically a black light, is what we always used to call them. I guess it's a fluorescent light. Kind of neat. Alright, so we got the dark green, and the next one. So yeah, I'm pretty pretty excited about this book. I absolutely amazed. I mean, the guy, there's points where he was, hanging out with other people, but for the most part, he just did this whole thing on his own. He'd been a school teacher here in Singapore, and then kind of decided this is the thing he wanted to do. He even went to Greenland or Iceland, whichever, the one from The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, and thought, wow, that's pretty cool. So, all right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come down 2 knots. 1 and 2. And I'm now going to take the dark one and send my bright green back towards the middle. And I'm going to take the dark one and bring it to the rest of the way to the outside. So it goes over the second darkest and all the way out to the outside. And essentially, that's going to make it so that that bright green is going to be this nice little center stripe right down the middle of this. And then the other 4 colors, if I keep following the same thing I just did here, will become like candy stripes, I guess, going in either direction. So it's, well, I guess that makes it kind of a chevron. But the middle of the chevron's all divvied up by this really super bright green, which I definitely, this is like totally his color. Now green is not my first go-to color. Nothing wrong with it, just really not my color. But that is his, and his most of his outfits and all that kind of stuff was always green. It's even when I told him like he was going to send me the book, I was like, hey, why don't I throw a bracelet in there? And he's like, okay, green. I kind of knew that was probably going to be the thing. So yeah, I followed Adrian during his whole little trip there through his Facebook page, which I thought that was kind of a neat way of living vicarious, to see somebody out there exploring the world, doing, cool stuff. And I got to experience that all from the safety of my home. So I was pretty grateful for that. I even convinced him that he had to go to, was in the Baja Peninsula in Mexico, and I said he had to go to Land's End. Now, I don't know much about geography or any of that kind of stuff, but I'd heard about Land's End because of Van Halen, of course, right? And because of that song, I looked it up and thought, wow, what an amazing place. One day in my life, I'd really like to go there. And here's somebody I'm like following and whatever, and he's super close to the place. I'm like, dude, you got to check it out. And he's like, oh, I wasn't really planning on it. I'm like, oh, but Van Halen says it's amazing and stuff, and David Lee Roth and blah, blah, blah. And he went and did it. So, like, how cool is that, So, kind of heroic stuff, going and doing things because other people think it's cool. So, all right. So we're getting into the second row here. And this is kind of moving along just like I kind of expected it would. I didn't like write down a pattern for this because it's sort of self-explanatory, I guess, in my mind at least. So I'm not sure if I should call this like advanced because, I'm not using patterns. It's a really super easy layout. I guess I could make this an easy one and just give you guys the pattern. So that makes sense, right? Yeah. But the reality is after a while of doing stuff, if you make enough things, if you play with enough different designs, eventually you don't need to have a pattern. You can just sort of do this stuff. And there's something kind of rewarding about that, as well as the fact that you don't have to end up having computer on or having the some paper and stuff in front of you. So just slightly easier, I suspect. So you can see the little stripe is starting to form. That looks kind of cool. So can I zoom in on that? There. Can I adjust it? There we go. All right. So you can see I come over two to the side, and then it's in this case it'd be a right and then a left, which keeps the bright greens in the middle and just cycles through these four. So like I said, not a difficult pattern, something you can easily pick up. This is, I did kind of actually talk about this a little bit. So when I did the Boy in the Band one, right, I was saying the fact that you could make sort of a stripe thing like this, right? So this would be pretty much the same methodology, just different colors loaded into it, if you're going to try to do like the French or the Russian flag, because their flags are just the three colors in a row. So this is basically how you do it. You would have to divvy up the colors on the sides, much like the Boy in the Band one, because you would have the, like, really you should like look up those flags, like see what the sequence is. But I know they're like red, white, and blue, but just not that order, because that's the United States' one. But you could have the colors on either side, and whichever one is down the middle, going down the middle, and it would work just like this. So that's kind of cool. I hadn't actually even thought about the fact that there was some kind of similarity to something else I had been talking about recently. So if you hadn't seen that video, go watch it. It's pretty cool. Still waiting for him to get back with me. Kind of hoping that he'll give me an address. I can send him the bracelet, and then I can feel all kinds of warm and fuzzy inside. That, you know, I don't know. It's just something I'm hoping for. Whatever. Alright, so you see 2, and then basically the easy way of like knowing that you're not messing this up is this bright green shouldn't cross over top of any of the other colors, right? Like this other green, right? And that's what keeps it nice and centered and keeps that stripe nice and thin. Mind you, if I wanted this middle stripe to be fatter, I could have made it go be the one that went over top of like these. So instead of being just like a couple wide, it would have been like one row bigger, which I guess that would be kind of cool too. Depends on what you're trying to do, what your overall end result is, but yeah. And this kind of pattern really doesn't matter so much as like how many strands that you put into it. So unless you're trying to like mathematically do the flag thing and you want all the stripes to be of the equal whatever, then you have to do a little bit of math. But other than that, you can put as many colors as you want into here. In fact, you can even do it to where like you have pastels on one side and bright colors on the other. That'd be fun. Or you could do grayscale on one side and a rainbow on the other. You know, for like the whole like happy versus depression thing. That'd be kind of cool too. So yeah, essentially what I'm saying is there's lots of possibilities. You should explore them and do the ones that, you know, speak to your inner self. Like there's something inside of you that I'm sure is that like, you know, that would be so meaningful, or I know just the friend to give that to. And hopefully you'll go and do it, and you'll be happy, and you'll feel like you kind of came up with it relatively on your own, because that's how it should work, you know? Like, you should be able to have your own designs and build them, and with your own reasons involved. And I think that's kind of important. Helps me feel better, at least. So, all right. So you can see we're already back to the dark green again. So this string I have is this like 1/3 of a skein, which is like 2.6 meters or something crazy. So they're super, super long. So probably way, way longer than we need for a bookmark. But that's okay. Like I said, I'd rather have too much than too little. But maybe I'll make this kind of long because I can. Maybe I can make it so that way it can like be in 2 parts of the book at once. In case like maybe the wife wants to read as well. But she's way faster at reading than I am. I always get distracted. Like, so much ADD. Seriously. So, there we go. So I've done at least a little more than one cycle. At this point, I think I'm going to crank up some tunes while you guys get to see me do this all nice and sped up. So, all right, I'll be back in a bit. All right, so are you guys paying attention there? I went from that little silver sliver of a green stripe in the middle to this really, really big one. And it's just a bit of a change. Figure I'd kind of slow it back down again and show you what I did differently. That'd be kind of neat just to see. And since the string is long, it doesn't matter if I kind of use up more of the bright stuff. So before I would have stopped here, and I would have used the dark green one to have come over. But instead, I'll go over the dark green one and then come back, which still, in a sense, keeps all of the bright greens in the middle. It's just one less knot for the dark green to do on its row. So instead of having 4, it just becomes 3. And I know that's like not a huge deal. I mean, you know, big whoop, right? But when you compare the two sections, it really does seem like a big deal. And I think that's kind of neat. I think that's, you know, if you're looking at trying different possibilities and you're trying to come up with that new thing that, you know, I don't know, matches your vision, this may be how you get to there. So don't know. I think it's kind of cool. Kind of curious as to what other things I could do with that to make it sort of interesting or whatever, you know. Other flags maybe, or not sure. But I'm sure there's certainly some possibilities. Well, one thing's for sure is because the outer colors are used way less, if I was going to like somehow incorporate this into a bag, it would be the bright green is getting used way, way more. So those would be the ones that would have to be replaced more often, which might mean that I could stretch out the other colors longer. Not sure if that's super, super helpful, but you know, these are the kind of things that I dwell on while I'm busy tying knots. And a couple of you said you wanted to hear like these kind of stories and learn from whatever it is these random thoughts I have are. So there you have it. This is the kind of stuff I dwell on. But I like this. This has got kind of a fun kind of look to it. So basically, instead of like the 2, it comes down 3. And then, you know, from each side or whatever, that's pretty wide. I kind of knew like it would be wider, you know, I mean like that was a given, but I didn't expect it to kind of dominate the whole thing quite as much as it does. So that's fun. Mind you, like typically like in playing around with the whole stripes in the middle thing, I'm used to doing the ones where you basically are changing up the directions of the, whoops. So you got busy talking to you and let that green go one too far. See, if you don't keep the bright green to the center, it's not gonna work. So the other ones are just like about changing the directions, like the ones down that middle stripe are going to the left and everything else is going to the right. And it creates that interesting, fun stripe down the middle thing. And I've done that, you know, from super, super wide with a barely having a couple knots off on the ends to a single stripe down the middle. Just tried all kinds of different variations on it, even where there's weird patterns being made by the different small stripes. So that's should probably do something in the portfolio to make that easier to find those. Those were kind of fun. So yeah, I'm not sure how much further I'm going to do all of this. I haven't figured out like what's the end point. Do I make it as long as the book? Doesn't seem really all that necessary. I probably can, I suppose. I don't know. So definitely looking forward. Oh, so on Instagram, some of you guys saw my post where I was hanging out at a coffee shop and trying to come up with ideas, and I asked you guys for some ideas, and you guys threw a bunch at me, a lot of really good ones too. One of them was about doing a belt, and I can tell you this kind of start right here. If I do a belt, that's exactly how I would do it. Because again, it's all about that whole nice flat start that makes it so that way it's, there's no knot there or something kind of getting in the way of its function. So that's exactly how I would do it. Then it's just a matter of the whole overall length. And doing a belt, the one thing that I would say is sort of a must is the fact that bracelet work is a bit springy, right? So when you're trying to hold up your pants or whatever, it's probably not like the best way. Plus, this is just cotton. So it's not going to, you can't expect it to wear very well. So what I would do is I did make a uke strap long before I was like really doing the videos, right? But what I did with the uke strap was I sewed it to leather. So the leather is doing all of the carrying, and then the bracelet work is just like decoration, which gives it the color and makes it really fun and whatever. So I suspect that's exactly how I would do the belt. I have some leather here. I don't know if it's big enough for a belt, at least big enough for a belt for me. So that one I can actually do in the American measurements, like a 34-inch waist, which is huge. Getting fat over here, especially this quarantine stuff. But yeah, I don't know what that actually is in metric. I should, but I don't. But yeah, I'm not sure if I have enough for a belt. It might be a fun project. If that's something you really, really want to see me do, leave me a comment. Definitely consider it. The only trouble would be is to where am I going to find leather? That's the right one, right? Yeah. Can't remember what some of the other ones were. There were some good ones though. I'm definitely going to put down a list of all great ideas and probably try to do them all. I mean, why not, right? Kinda have the time, I suppose. I mean, I can't do them all right away, but I can kind of start lining myself up for them all. All right, so we're finally through the next set. That's how long it takes to do a set, by the way. And so we did 1, 2, 3 with the skinny, and then 2 with the fatter one. That's kind of cool. I like it. Maybe I'll do one more set of the bigger one, and then we'll go back to the skinnier one. All right, time to speed things up again. Okay, so now, well, let me show you where I'm at. So I did the 3, 3, and 3, and for me, that's enough of a bookmark, right? It's not huge, but it's enough. It'll keep me on track, and I want to have a tail to it, and I don't want it to end with this kind of a V. So I thought this would kind of give me the opportunity to show you how you end something with a stripe going the other, coming like triangularly down. Right? So this is what I'm going to do. We are going to automatically leave off. Well, no, you know what? Because we started with the dark color, let's let it end with the dark color, right? See, there's no real rules to any of this. I just kind of make stuff up as I go along. And I guess, by doing it a certain way, then I've made my own little rule for myself. And this is how I typically would probably do it anyway. So let's do this. So now that the darkest one, the one that I started with, is finished, then that goes off and won't get used again. Next, I'll come down the other direction. Now, the fun thing is, I don't think Adrian Oh actually watches my channel. So I was kind of thinking here while I was busy tying those knots that maybe what I could do is actually send him this bookmark, because I think he's going to appreciate the greens way more than I do. So, just a thought. All right. To the end. And this one stops being used. And if you hadn't already guessed how this is going, what will happen is it will taper down to a point. And that's our little triangle start. Or ending in this case, right? So hopefully that helps you with whatever other creations and things that you're doing. If you were making a bag and you needed all these triangles to make it so that way you can stitch the bits together. Like if you put 4 of these together, you'd have 4 triangles. Those all come in, suddenly you have it square. All right. So now, second one is over. And this one now. So definitely want to see you guys create your own projects based on these ideas. Hopefully you will use the hashtag inspired by AKAAWOL, and that way, and like put them up on like Instagram. I can get the photos, I can't get videos. So I haven't figured out a way of doing that. So yeah, kind of limited as far as to what I can grab from the computer. Unless you, well, if you know a way of actually getting the videos from off of the Instagram, that would be cool. Share that with me. Send me a message. Don't tell the world, because I think that would be terrible. Like everybody having all their videos swiped or whatever. But a lot of bad people out there. I don't want to use it for bad reasons. I just want to be able to show off what you guys make. So, all right. Here we go. This is kind of scooting along pretty well. comes down to just the neon green. Now here's an interesting little side note. Each time we've made a row below, we've really locked in the knots that were above it, right? So it's harder and harder for those to come loose, because in order for them to come loose, the ones below it would have to come out first. So as we get down to this, I have now locked in all of that side, and then this locks in all of this side, and the final knot really helps cinch the whole deal. But as you can see, all the string seems to be going off in crazy directions, and it's a terrible way to just leave it, right? So what we do to make that all nice and smooth is the furthest one out gets gone over once by this. And then those two will be gone over once by this. Right? And that's just doing a figure 4. It just pulls it all in. And look how clean that looks. It's so much nicer. Last one. Bam. See? Nice and clean. Alright, now the other side. Now this side's the same. The outer one gets gone over by this, but this time it's the backwards 4, the left knot. And then this goes over 2. Three. 4. And the last one right here. And then I'm going to take that and come around the whole rest of the group just to really clean that up. So you can see now the end of it looks just like the beginning. We can pull this string right out. That's no longer needed. That was just needed to hold it there to clamp it. And now I'm just going to put a little braid in here, and we are basically done. So give me a second, I'll be right back. All right, so there it is. All nice and finished. You can see the huge difference between the skinny row versus the bigger row. I haven't gotten it wet and pulled it straight yet, but it's pretty straight. Add a little braid to it, so that way as it's in the book, you have this nice little braid sticking out. Easier to find. Right, kind of cool. And after a little bit of thought, I've decided, you know what, I am going to send it to him. I have this one here. This was when I was just starting to play around with the whole idea of doing the hair ties. I was kind of wanting to see what this variegated string might look like. And it was way too small to use on the hairband or anything. And I figured I wasn't going to throw it away, and I really like red. And you know what? It'll work just fine. So that's going to Adrian, and I guess I will see you in the next video. So until then, don't get your strings in a bunch.